Welcome back to the Weeknight Mysteries podcast. My name is Yuras, and I'm here with my co-host Rain. How are you today?
Hello, everyone. I really don't know what to say. It's always like, I'm good.
I mean, we have to keep doing this introduction.
Yeah, apologies, everyone. This is the second take because the first one I was in the middle of eating a cookie.
Yeah. You always have cookies here.
Yes.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about a case I was looking into. I was kind of like trying to research it, and it's really interesting. The murder of Athalia Ponsell Lindsley. It's a strange case. It's quite old. It happened some time ago in the 70s. Let me walk you through it.
Let's go for it.
So, on the early evening of January 23rd, 1974, in Florida, in the city called St. Augustine, which is really close to Jacksonville, a brutal daylight murder occurred on one of the nicest streets in St. Augustine. The victim was a 56-year-old woman named Athalia Ponsell Lindsley. Between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on January 23rd, she was attacked on the front steps of her own home. She was living at 124 Marine Street. She was attacked by a white, middle-aged man wearing a white dress shirt and dark dress pants. According to medical examiner who performed the autopsy, she was struck 9 times with a machete on her hand, arms, and in her head. You never heard about this case, right?
I did see a YouTube video about it with in BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed Unsolved, I think.
Oh, wait, so you actually were aware at least a little bit about this case?
Yeah, a little bit. Very
really?
slightly, yep.
Oh, cool. What like anything that stuck out to you about the case we're like, trying to like figure out today?
It sounded very much like a novel.
Really?
The names, the setting, because it happened in this pretty place in Florida, at least from the Google images. I can't remember which one. St. Augustine?
St. Augustine. St. Augustine claims to be the oldest city in America.
Oh, really?
It's where the Spanish settled the city.
That's so interesting. So yeah, the setting is very beautiful, at least from the Google images. It looks very like old school European vibe. And the people, it happened in the 70s, and the names of the people are like kind of like book characters. Athalia.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some other people there.
Yeah. So Athalia, she was born on July 25th in 1917. She was from a rich family from Ohio, Toledo in Ohio. She spent her early years living in a mansion on the Isle of Pines off the coast of Cuba. I think now it's called Isla de la Juventud, and it is literally like an island in Cuba. It's like basically part of Cuba. It's the second biggest island in Cuba.
You know what I mean? It kind of feels like a backstory of a storybook character.
Definitely. Her family then eventually resettled in Jacksonville, Florida when she was 9 because there was a growing anti-American sentiment on the island. Athalia has blonde good looks, and she won beauty pageants while she was still in school. She married at the age of 18, but the marriage only lasted 2 years. By 1937, she had moved to New York City to pursue a career as a model. She took the stage name Ponsell. She signed with the John Robert Powers Agency and became one of the top models of her day. This led to small parts on Broadway as a dancer and the job as a hostess on the TV game show Winner Takes All.
Well, she's very beautiful.
Definitely.
Right.
She definitely has the model looks.
Like a Marilyn Monroe kind of Meryl Streep look.
Yes, similar vibes, that's for sure. Athalia was well read and versed in the arts. She at some point dated Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., who was the older brother of John F. Kennedy, the same Kennedy that got assassinated.
Damn, girl.
Yeah, but they just dated apparently. But then I think John P. Kennedy Jr., he died in action as a pilot. She spent 10 years modeling and pursuing a show business career in New York City, but it never really took off for her. So she moved back to Jacksonville in 1947, where her mother lived. Then again, she married and divorced again. She got a real estate license. She wrote a book on gardening and patented a device for scouring pans. I don't know what that means, like cleaning pans.
Me either.
Either way, like looks to me like she's doing so much, all kinds of things.
And she's pretty. She was pretty. Damn,
I feel like
girl.
she's really smart. Like like she's. I feel like she feels like she knows that she could do anything. Like you kind of get that vibe, like she's doing patents, writing books on gardening, like real estate.
Modeling, dating some rich dude. But then again, she was rich herself.
That's true. So in 1970, she had an unsuccessful run for the state legislature in Florida. She joined clubs and had an active social life. She was a woman of varied interests with strong opinions who made both friends as well as enemies. And let's talk about the problems that followed Athalia in St. Augustine. Because Athalia and her mother, Margarita, moved to St. Augustine in 1972. They moved to a 124 Marine Street in the Old Town. I looked at the house, and it does look like a very nice house. Like, do you see it? What can you tell me about the neighborhood in general?
I don't even know how to name this style. It's just very beautiful. It's kind of like tropical.
It's kind of like tropical, but like fancy. Like it's weird. It's weird to describe.
The only way I could describe it is that I want to live here.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind living there as well. Athalia acted as a caretaker for her ailing mother. Her mother was sleeping on the Athalia apparently was sleeping on the floor in her room for the last year of her life. No, it was Athalia's mother who was sleeping on the floor in her room for the last year of her life. I don't know why.
It's pretty odd because this house looks massive.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like anyone like needs to sleep on the floor.
It feels like they would have enough beds.
Definitely. So her mother died on April 26th, back in 1973. And by that time, Athalia was already apparently embroiled in the troubles that likely led to her mother in...
Murder.
Yeah, damn. Tough time. It's a Friday. Cut me some slack.
Yeah, no worries.
So, unlike in Jacksonville, Athalia seems not to have found a welcome in St. Augustine because she was called a Yankee in spite of her southern roots. You know, Yankees are like people from New York, I assume. So,
And that's a bad thing?
apparently in the South, that they don't like that. I guess. Though she had some social success, she rubbed people the wrong way with her outspokenness, very conservative politics. I mean, you would think that, conservative politics would be appreciated in the South, but apparently not in St. Augustine. And abrasive personality. It is said that she was a great friend to those who were like-minded, but she could be dismissive or rude to those who weren't. She divided into local issues. Oh, sorry, she dived into local issues and was not shy about making her opinions known at public city meetings. Returning to work in real estate, she met and started dating a former St. Augustine mayor, James Lindsay. We have a picture of James Lindsay. What can you tell me about this man from this one really grainy picture? Like, probably can't tell me nothing.
Yeah, I can't. White, old. That's all I have. It looks like a regular dude.
Regular middle-aged white guy. That's all we got. This guy, he was a well-liked individual, James Lindsay, as well as a hard drinker and smoker. He was easygoing, but was said to have a quick temper. The two of them married in September of 1973. Oddly, both of them were still living in their own houses by January of 1974. So this is kind of strange. They are married, but they don't live together. Supposedly, this was because they were having trouble selling Athalia's house, and she didn't want to leave it empty and unprotected. So she had, because apparently there was a bunch of her mother's valuables still at the house.
Okay, why not
understand.
move? Why not move the valuable possessions to your house?
To the other guy's house.
To the other guy's house.
It's kind of like, I think I understand. I don't.
Is it grief?
I don't find it weird because I feel like they both, by the time they got married in '74, they were both like, they weren't like teenagers. So I feel like they already lived their whole lives without each other. So I feel like they're comfortable not necessarily rushing into it.
But they're already married though. Why not just stay, I don't know, like engaged? Oh, it's the 70s.
It's a different time, maybe.
Yeah, it's a different time. But then again, why not like stay at one house for maybe a week and then go to another house?
Do you find it weird? Do you think it's weird?
In the setting, in old school setting, probably not, considering it was the 70s. But right now, yes.
Like, do you suspect that, I don't know, James is the killer?
So far, no.
Okay.
It seems like we have very little information here, if we're basing our assumptions there, nope. They
Yeah.
just don't. They just probably don't like sleeping next to each other.
Or maybe it's true what she's saying. Maybe she legit didn't want to leave the house unprotected.
Oh, come on. And then James was like, okay, you can sleep there while I sleep in my own house.
Yeah.
No, come on. If you're a good husband, wouldn't you like stay with her?
Maybe they were like really planning.
Or maybe the guy is too busy, being the mayor and all.
He was the former mayor.
Or former mayor. Yes, probably nothing to do then.
Maybe he was still busy. Regardless, Athalia also had a lot of pets. Maybe the pets were the problem. Who knows?
Oh yeah, maybe James wanted to get away from the commotion. Maybe.
Who knows? The couple would apparently spend the daytime together, but Athalia would usually return to her home at night, while James stayed in his house on Anastasia Island across the Bridge of Lions. There's this Anastasia Island. I looked it up. I have a map there with the circle. Not sure if you could see it. So, how would you describe it? Is it it's fairly close to where Athalia was living. It's just basically like, I guess, a little island. Not really a little island.
It's still pretty far though.
It's definitely not a walk away.
Yeah.
You definitely have to drive a car towards it. James also had another house, a family house, on the mainland St. Augustine. There was some speculation that the marriage had already failed because people were speculating that, why are they not living together? Maybe the marriage is an issue here. Maybe there's an issue there. However, this type of living arrangement where two of them are living separately had already existed in James Lindsay's first marriage. as well as, and might have not been that significant. So it's hard to say, like, if their marriage was solid by that time. Athalia did not make many friends in her neighborhood. The trouble started early on with the animals that she kept. She had adopted stray dogs. She had 5 at one point, plus her mother's dog, so 6 in total. The neighbors on both sides, basically the wives on both sides, the McCormicks and the Stanfords, complained about the dogs barking and logged campaigns within the city. Complaints. The first complaint was in 72 and resulted in a fine. The second complaint, made by Rosemary McCormick, resulted in an arrest warrant. 3 days later, Athalia's mother had died. Like, what crazy timing.
Oh, wait. Now I get it. So, Athalia and her husband weren't living together because she was staying with her mother.
Her mother had already passed away, I believe.
Oh, during then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Shortly before they got married.
Okay. Now I don't get it again.
Yeah. Yeah, so what crazy timing, right? Patty Stanford testified against Athalia in court in the first case, Patty being, like another neighbor, and wrote a complaining letter to the judge in the second. Athalia retaliated by cutting off the limbs of don't worry about it, not Patty's limbs. She cut off the limbs of 2 trees on the property line that overhung her yard and planted a 10-inch tall bamboo in a corner where it obscured the Stanford's house view. The city then removed that bamboo. Damn.
I love the pettiness.
This is crazy.
It's crazy petty. And bamboos grow really quickly and they're very invasive. So if you plant one, maybe like the next week you would see 2 more.
Crazy, man. Mm-hmm. For some reason, she especially targeted Patty's husband, Alan Stanford, even though it was his wife, Patty, who had made the complaints. Alan Stanford was the county manager of St. Johns County. St. Johns County is like a county, and within that county you have St. Augustine, the city.
It feels like everyone surrounding her was like powerful and
definitely influential people. Mm-hmm. It feels like the whole area was filled with influential people.
Mm-hmm.
So like a county manager, they basically are quite responsible people. They oversee a lot of people and basically the whole, I think, county budget or something like that. So they have a lot to do there, I bet. And Athalia began attending county commissioners' meetings and was critical of Alan Stanford's competence and his salary. Athalia claimed that it wasn't just a small argument between neighbors that shifted her to be critical of Alan Stanford, and she dramatically said that Alan Stanford at some point had threatened her life. But Alan Stanford said that that he said, "I'll fix you," which is a bad thing to say. I'll fix you.
Not necessarily.
Stop talking bad about me or I'll fix you.
In that context, then yeah.
Yeah. It's not good, man. I don't know what you're thinking about. It was pretty bad
I don't
thing
know.
to say.
I thought it was something kind of friendly, I'll try to fix you.
No.
Your personality in your life and your sadness, I'll try to fix it away or something like that.
Man, I don't know what you've been listening to, but this is not part of this story. The day before her murder, she went to the commission with a county roads worker to complain about the bad roads and to point out that Stanford was calling himself the county engineer even though he wasn't qualified. He was a marine engineer, and he was hired with the understanding that he would obtain a necessary civil engineer qualification. Though he failed the exam, he received the raise to his salary that had been promised anyway. So that's kind of bad, and it didn't sit well with Athalia, who had also ambitions to run for the Board of Commissioners. The county employee who testified to botched work on a road project was fired on January 23rd. So I don't know, probably Alan Stanford somehow like influenced that firing, because this guy was already like talking bad about Alan Stanford's like decisions or something like that. And this was one day after the hearing. And on that same day, Alan Stanford was visited by two men from the Florida Department of Professional and Occupational Regulations. They had been contacted by Athalia and were investigating him for misrepresenting his position. They were planning to interview Athalia the next day. So this is happening literally one day before the murders. So kind of interesting timing.
Very bad timing.
Yeah, that Athalia is really making this guy's life hard. She feels like she's really making it difficult for this dude.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of like rich politics, influential thingies going on right now.
Yeah, I would say. On Wednesday, January 23rd, 1974, Athalia and James made their weekly visit to Jacksonville for lunch and shopping. So I don't know what they did in the beginning of the day. I don't know if they work at this point, like feels like they're employed, but like in their own way. Let's put it that way.
The rich way.
Yeah.
Something we don't understand right now.
No. So they were in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is 40 miles away from St. Augustine. So they were just shopping there. Apparently it was a regular thing for them to be in Jacksonville. Jacksonville being, the bigger city in the vicinity. At some point, she had gone home, but they agreed that the two of them would join James on the island, where James Lindsay, her husband, was living, to cook dinner. She had gone home, though, but yeah, she was gonna go and cook dinner at James's place later. She returned around 5:35 p.m. She left her groceries in the kitchen and went out the front door to get her mail and allow her rescued Blue Jay Clementine dog to exercise on the lawn.
What?
Yeah.
She had a Blue Jay bird named Clementine.
Oh, it's a bird.
Yeah, it's a bird.
Oh, sorry, not a dog. But yeah, so...
Blue Jay is a bird, right?
Yeah, no, it's a bird.
Yeah, it's definitely a bird.
Yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, it's quite interesting bird. I wonder how she let it out on the lawn and it didn't fly away.
Who would have a Blue Jay pet bird?
Maybe in Florida.
Maybe. And she had a goat, right? At one point. I read an article where she had a goat at one point and a bunch of stray dogs. So she really was a rescuer of animals, yeah.
I think that's super cool, honestly.
It's really cool.
And all of a sudden, as she was outside, a man approached from the backyard and attacked her with a sharp weapon, virtually on her front steps. She was stabbed 9 times in the arm and head, and she was nearly decapitated. The attack was brutal. The chief of police later said that the crime was committed out of pure hate. About 6 p.m., the teenager, Lockie McCormick, the next door neighbor, the same McCormick from the McCormick family.
So this is the son.
The son, but not of the Stanford, not Alan Stanford, not of the guy that...
The other side, basically.
The other side, yeah. So this guy, a teenage boy, he heard slapping sounds and moans outside and looked out the window, where he saw a man in front of Athalia's house, raising and lowering his arms. So I assume I actually first made a comment for myself. What does that mean? Raising and lowering his arms? But now I understand it's probably like the stabbing motion.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably like the stabbing motion or slashing motion using a machete. That's what it is. So he ran outside. He could see Athalia's body on the steps as the man walked away in the direction of the Stanford's home. He then ran back inside of his house and he told his mother and grandmother that Mr. Stanford is hitting Mrs. Ponsell, like Athalia Ponsell. And they all went out and they found Athalia in a pool of blood and called both the police and ambulance. But Athalia was already dead. The time of her death was apparently 6:08 p.m. So it's kind of interesting that Loki, first thing he said to his mother and grandmother, Mr. Stanford is hitting Miss Ponsell. So he's identifying that Alan Stanford is the killer.
Or do you think there's a possibility that he said that mainly because the culprit was heading in the direction of the Stanford house, probably away from them?
I think that's a possibility. But it is strange how he just said it.
It's very strange because this is a neighbor, and so I'm assuming he
knows
was familiar.
How he looks, yeah. Other neighbors had also heard screams, and people started to gather in front of the house. The investigation started poorly. Police walked over the grass and hedges, obscuring evidence. They did not lift fingerprints. They even had some of the body areas of the porch hosed down. There was still a trail of blood leading from the steps across the lawn to the low wall adjoining the Stanford house. Inside of Athalia's home, nothing was disturbed.
Great job, police. Hosing an evidence down.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision.
Do you think it's kind of like... Do you think it was incompetence or someone influenced them to hose down the evidence?
I feel like it's incompetence because I never got the vibe that someone's immediately covering up within seconds of the crime happening. It's already a cover-up taking place. I think it's just incompetence.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Athalia's husband, James Lindsay, had gone back to the island, where he lives, with a few steps along the way before reaching home about 6 p.m. Around 6:30, he got 2 calls to come back to Marine Street right away because something had happened at Athalia's house. So he called his lawyer, who met him at the scene. There, James identified Athalia. It's interesting that he had to call his lawyer immediately.
I guess maybe this is a rich person thing. He was a former mayor. He had a reputation to protect.
Maybe.
And maybe when he heard the news, something bad happened. Maybe he already heard that Athalia's dead. Maybe he was like, okay, time to lawyer up.
It's still strange, why would you, as a husband, your first thing is not to get to the scene ASAP. Your first thing is to get a lawyer. I think
that is very true.
I feel like that kind of speaks to their relationship a little bit. They like each other, but it's kind of oh, now something's wrong with, she's probably dead. Okay, need to call the lawyer
up.
Yeah, I do think they like each other, but it feels to me like this says...
Transactional, maybe?
No, I don't think it's transactional. I think they probably enjoyed each other's company, but it wasn't It feels to me like this basically says that, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say anything,
The relationship wasn't that deep.
Yeah, this is probably... He could still probably bounce back. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, that's true, because... Yeah, put
I'm just
yourself in
guessing,
his shoes,
honestly.
and yeah, you would actually just run to your wife's house and just try to
Honestly, would be you would be in that house.
shambles.
You'd be in that house to begin with. You'd just be living together.
True, very true.
Like, why are you still not living together? You know. Anyways, Alan Stanford, the neighbor that was identified by Loki as the killer, he drove up home at around 7 p.m. And upon being told that Athalia had been murdered, he asked, was she shot or was she cut? So it's an interesting question.
I wonder where he was at. Like, drove up
7
back
p.m.
at 7 p.m. Like, where did he come from?
Yeah, and the question was she shot or was she cut? At first, like, this was such a strange question for me, but now that I'm thinking more about it, was she shot or it could be just like just a question. It could be just a question. At first, I thought it's such a strange and suspicious question to ask.
Because what would you ask? Like, what happened? Right?
What happened? Was she shot or was she cut? Because I guess this is how it would go down. So maybe he's just trying to like ask how it went down.
And maybe he even asked it that way. He was like, "Oh, what happened? Was she shot or was she cut?"
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. St. Augustine police were soon aided by the sheriff's police, with Sheriff Dudley Garrett leading the investigation. The coroner said death was caused by lacerations with a thick, sharp-bladed instrument, in his opinion a machete. No weapon was found at the scene, nor in searches in nearby woods or a lake behind the property. Apparently, many people in St. Johns County owned machetes. Makes sense. It feels like a machete place. Like you have to cut through like the brush.
Overgrown trees.
Yeah. James Lindsay volunteered his machete. He usually had one in his car, so he immediately gave it to police. Alan Stanford had borrowed a machete from the county. And he said that he already returned it to the county, but this could never be verified. So I don't think that Alan Stanford ever gave any machete to police. He just at first said that he borrowed one from the county, but already had given it back. At this point, police had only 2 suspects to work with, and these are the most obvious suspects: James Lindsay and the neighbor Alan Stanford. And we have a picture scene. Well, I'm not going to be sharing these pictures.
It's a little too morbid. It's graphic.
It's very bad. Like, the pictures are insanely terrible.
Mm-hmm. I do understand how they said that whoever stabbed her did it with a lot of hate, because there were a lot of blood on the walls.
There's so much blood everywhere. Just
splashes and splashes of them.
Yeah. James Lindsay, the husband, was of course one of the first persons the police looked at. He took a polygraph on February 6th, and he had a pretty solid alibi. That's one of the reasons why investigators considered him to be eliminated as a suspect. On his way home after parting with Athalia, he had spoken to or was seen by several people at several points, and therefore his time was pretty well accounted for. So it seems like he's innocent, honestly. That's all I need to know. There was a 15 or 20 minute interval that was not covered. However, it was considered that this period, alongside with his alibi, would have left him little time to return to mainland St. Augustine, kill Athalia, and then go back and drive home and receive those phone calls. So it seems like he's pretty much cleared out, in my opinion.
Oh, come on. 15 to 20 minutes unaccounted for. What if he was just pooping? You know what I mean? I don't think it's enough time at all.
Oh yeah, I don't know why you had to
No.
Give that suggestion.
No, it's just that
What
I find it so
What's that
weird.
all about?
No, I just find it so weird how they needed to clarify it. There was 15 or 20-minute interval that was not covered. Yeah.
No, but I don't think they're saying that.
Oh, we're like, this is very sketchy.
They're not saying it's sketchy. I think it's normal to have
Okay,
some time
apologies.
unaccounted. I don't think he was taking a number two. I think he was basically, I don't know, he could have just been, I don't know, like smoking a cigarette outside. I don't know why you had to jump to very
No,
like specific.
Because unaccounted for, nobody saw him in that 15 to 20 minutes. And so I'm assuming he was in the bathroom.
Okay. Well, maybe that's what happened. Okay, so that was that. Alan Stanford, obviously suspect number two, a man who had been investigated by authorities just the day prior, because of his, I think, lack of experience to do his job, and it was all orchestrated by Athalia. And obviously, a guy with a huge motive to do the killing. He said he did not commit the crime. He denied committing the crime. He said witnesses could attest to him being at work from 6 to 7 p.m. His family also alibied him, though both his wife and daughter said earlier at the crime scene that they didn't know where he was. So later they changed their story, it seems. He said that he had gone back to work to check some permits needing to be issued and stayed to study for the engineer's exam.
Very interesting. I wonder if someone saw him.
I think the whole thing is kind of weird because now we have a guy who's like, he goes back home from work, conveniently goes back to work as Athalia is murdered, and then comes back. Like, very weird. If you're gonna stay after work to do some more work, like, just stay. Why do you have to go back home and then go back to work to issue some permits? Like, you knew those permits needs to be issued anyways. So like, why are you not staying at work after working hours?
Maybe he's trying to say that he went back to work because he, like, I don't know, forgot to do something.
And then he was going to stay there to study for the exam. So you already knew you were going to study for the exam. You don't just spontaneously study for the exam.
That's true.
You already knew that you're going to be studying for the exam after work, so you might as well stay there and study.
Forgetting to issue a permit, it's pretty weird, but I guess I could see that happening in this scenario.
He just...
Like, I need to sign some documents really quickly, in and out. But I need to sign some documents and then study for the exam in there.
And such a convenient timeline.
Very.
A few days later, on February 17, a county mechanic called Dewey Lee, that's a weird name, searched a swampy area that had once been a city dump and came up with a bundle, including a white shirt, dark blue pants, and a watch wrapped in a pink towel. The pants and shirt had blood on them. He found a machete in the water nearby, as well as a diaper. That's a interesting find. And we have
Okay,
the
maybe
machete.
it was just the diaper was just there as trash.
We have the machete here. It's a huge machete. It looks like a sword, honestly.
Terrifying.
Looks like a sword that you would go to war with. One item, the watch, was immediately traced back to Alan Stanford by markings inside when he had it repaired. The shirt was tentatively identified as his because of a laundry mark. Shirt and pants were his size as well, so everything's looking really bad for Alan Stanford right now.
Terrible.
A few days later, on February 24th, Stanford was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He was released on a $20,000 bond, voluntarily went on leave from his job, and took work as a maintenance worker. So Alan Stanford was well liked in the community, with a reputation as a mild-mannered man, living quietly with his family. He was a vestryman at his church. Vestryman at his church, whose members raised bond money and a legal defense fund rumored to be as high as $250,000.
It was in the 70s.
In the 70s, money. That's crazy. So to me, this tells me that this guy has such a huge liking that people are rallying behind him when everything's looking so bad. Like, looks like he's like,
But it's always those people.
What do you mean, those people?
Like the ones that are always like a goody two shoes, I meant.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean? Like, I'm just saying that it's so strange to me that like so many people raised so much money when it looks like he definitely did it. So either these people are really
blinded,
or maybe they also didn't like Athalia.
That amount of people? Come on, it's
apparently she had a lot of enemies.
$250,000 in the 70s. Do you think that amount of people hated her?
Yeah, it could be that there's a few rich donors there.
That's true.
The trial opened on the 1-year anniversary of the killing. Prosecutors had failed in a bid for a change of venue because of public sentiment in St. Johns County. They wanted to move the trial somewhere else, but they couldn't do it. The prosecution presented their evidence of the trail of blood towards the Stanford home, the finding of the clothes, the watch and the machete, Stanford's possession of a machete, the motive of Athalia's attempts to have him fired from his job, and the eyewitness account of that neighbor, Lockie McCormick, who immediately said, Mr. Stanford is attacking Athalia. They pointed out inconsistencies in witness testimony, such as his daughter, Patricia Stanford, such as his daughter, Patricia Stanford, saying that her father left home around 5:35. Her initial statement said that he was not at home when she got back from a tennis match around 5:15. So was he home? Was he not home? Patricia also changed her testimony about what her father was wearing when she saw him. Athalia's friend Nancy Powell testified that Alan Stanford called her about a week before the murder to ask if she had any dirt on Athalia. He said he needed something to stop her, or she would have to be sent back where she came from. And afterwards, Alan Stanford said that he only said that he wishes she would go back where she came from. The physical evidence was a mixed bag, as water had obscured identifying information on several items. There was one night session during the trial where the jury were shown the white shirt under ultraviolet light to be able to read Stanford's laundry mark, because apparently it was barely visible. Doctors from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Lab testified as to the finding of a blonde hair embedded in the machete and to the blood found on the diaper, which matched Athalia's type A blood. It was implied that the diaper was used to wipe down the machete, on which neither fingerprints nor blood were found. So,
that's so smart.
Yeah, they had a diaper because diaper absorbs blood, right?
Blood absorbs liquid.
Everything.
Absorbent in general. That's so smart. I wonder.
Yeah.
Like, who would have a diaper?
Who would have a diaper? That's a good question. Yeah. Would Alan Stanford have a diaper? Unless he picked some diaper up from somewhere. But that's a good question.
But you can't really buy a diaper individually, no?
Yeah.
They always come in packs.
You could buy a pack, just get one out, throw the rest out. You could get one diaper, it's not a problem.
It feels like this is such a small community that, for example, Mr. Stanford got himself like a pack of baby diapers. Someone would notice. Seems like a kind of like a well-liked and famous-ish guy within the community,
That's true. That's a good point. I think they should have focused on where the diaper came from.
And I wonder if it's like an adult diaper or a baby diaper,
Ah, that's a good point.
right?
Yeah. So right now it's looking bad because they did connect the murder bundle to Athalia's murder, and it seems to me that this murder bundle belongs to Stanford. Like clothes have his marks. It was his watch. I mean, how much more evidence do you need? But get a load of this. The defense actually came back. The defense came back. And this was, I don't know, these lawyers need a raise because they came back with some crazy stuff. Get this. The defense countered. They brought 2 county employees to testify that Stanford's alibi. One of the employees had seen him leaving the office between 5 and 5:10 p.m. and another had seen his car at the office by 5:30 and 6 p.m. So they're saying that he left at around 5 and came back at around 5:30. And Athalia, she was murdered at around 5:35. So they're basically saying that there would be no time for Alan Stanford to basically come back home. To kill Athalia and then go back to the office. Like, to stash the murder bundle, all of this stuff. So I don't know who these guys are, but apparently the thing is that the only things that's weird for me here about this, like I will point a hole in this logic of the defense, is that they had seen Stanford's car at 5:30. They didn't see Stanford himself back in the office. So yeah, he may have left the office at around 5, which is a normal time to leave work, but apparently his car was still seen there at 6. So maybe he left maybe this is pre-planned, I don't know. But more importantly, the teenage neighbor, Lockie McCormick's eyewitness testimony faltered. He had previously stated that he saw Mr. Stanford. Now he said he could only attest that he saw a man in a white shirt and dark trousers. Never saw his full face, and though he might have been burlier in the shoulders than Alan Stanford, which is fair enough, okay? Which is fair enough. I don't think it's necessarily suspicious that Lockie McCormick is like switching his testimony. It's fair enough. What do you think?
It could be a case wherein a teenager was afraid. Because initially he thought it was Mr. Stanford, but...
Do you think his parents, who I bet also didn't like Athalia, were kind of trying to influence him in some way?
Not necessarily. They could have been good people, but I think the pressure from the public and from this case might have stopped him from saying it was Mr. Stanford.
Because it would be crazy if they're pressuring him to
Not necessarily pressuring him, but imagine yourself as a teenager with all of this commotion around. You would be like, oh, yeah, I'm not really sure. I didn't really see the face,
Yeah, because now it got real.
It got super real. Because at the moment, you could be absolutely sure it was Mr. Stanford.
Yeah. With
the body build, the clothes, and the direction in which the culprit was going to.
Yeah.
But after some time, and after all of this pressure, it's a massive thing, you could be like, oh yeah, I'm really not sure.
But to me it's strange. Why I don't think anyone would pressure him? Because do you really want to still be in the neighborhood of a guy who just walks up with a machete in broad daylight and
if I'm rich enough, no, I'm going
and hacks someone to death in a brutal manner? Would you oh, maybe reconsider? I would feel like we have to get to the bottom of this ASAP.
I would just leave.
Yeah. The defense had also brought a surprise witness who had been riding her bike, it was a girl apparently, nearby, and had seen a man whose description matched Dewey Lee. Remember, Dewey Lee was the guy who found the murder bundle. Apparently, this girl was driving around the neighborhood. She saw someone matching Dewey Lee's description standing in front of Athalia's house at about 4:30 p.m., approximately 1 hour before the murder and before Athalia even came back home from that date in Jacksonville with her husband. Her uncle, a county employee, had previously taken her to the county building, and she said she had picked Dewey Lee out as the man that she saw. Finally, they attacked Dewey Lee's testimony about conveniently finding the clothes and weapon. Okay, if it was really Dewey Lee 1 hour before the murders and the same Dewey Lee finds the murder bundle, I find that very suspicious. According to Alan Stanford, this is how he now explains everything. The laundry had lost some of his shirts, like the laundry business. So the tentative identification of laundry mark on him was not relevant. He also said that the watch had gone missing shortly after the murder. So he said that there's no way he left the murder, like someone stole his watch after the murder. And the defense theory was that the watch and the clothes had been stolen from Alan Stanford's house when it was searched, then given to Dewey Lee to hide and then later find the murder bundle. This was alleged to be a conspiracy among the police, Dewey Lee, and husband James Lindsay, with one of them committing the actual crime. The defense made much of the Lindsay's marital arrangements to insinuate that the marriage with James was rocky. They introduced letters Athalia had written to her sister in which she called James a leech and a liar, and said she had changed the locks in her house and not given him the keys. James denied that there was any trouble in the marriage. And what do you make about the defense?
And they did not interview Athalia's sister?
Well, the defense didn't bring her out, for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, maybe not obvious reasons, but they didn't bring her out. Anyway, so what do you think about the defense? So basically, the explanation here is that Dewey Lee, the police, and the husband are conspiring. One of them killed Athalia for, I guess the motive is that James, the husband, is like not in a happy marriage with her, and now he wants to kill her. I guess doesn't seem like there's any like huge financial motive behind it. Maybe there is, I don't know. So the logic here is that they're living separately. He kills her because, he doesn't like her anymore. And he gets police to go in the house, steal Stanford stuff, give Stanford stuff to Dewey Lee to hide it, and tell Dewey Lee, go find it in a couple of days. And that's when we get Stanford arrested.
And then what? James also owned the laundry shop in which some of Stanford's shirt got lost.
Yeah,
conveniently.
That's also how, or maybe Dewey Lee went in there. I don't
or
know
a laundry shop without a connection lost some of Stanford's shirts.
I don't know. It feels kind of like a very crazy conspiracy theory.
It feels like the Stanford paid a lot of money to his defense attorneys, and I don't know. I don't buy it, and if it wins, then it's gonna be. Then it's crazy.
James legit had an alibi. He was unaccounted for only 20 minutes, so James couldn't have killed Athalia. So James doesn't like Athalia. He's a former mayor, and he has such leverage over the community that he gets other people to kill Athalia and police to cover for him, risking all of his life, everything. and the freedom of all the other people who's involved in the conspiracy, because he doesn't like Athalia anymore.
It's a little too much for me.
It's bonkers, dude. Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so now let's go to the verdict. On February 3rd, the jury of 7 men and 5 women, 12 people in total, they were considering their verdict in 2.5 hours, during which time they were served lunch. So basically a very short period of time, because they usually discuss the verdict for a very long time. But they did it in 2.5 hours
with
plus
lunchtime.
Plus lunch, so like in an hour. They came back with a not guilty. Oh,
What the hell?
they came back with a not guilty. So I assume they believe the conspiracy. They believe that, in fact, police, Dewey Lee, and James Lindsay are behind it. Okay, so Alan Stanford fell to his knees, vocally thanking God, and then the members of the jury. Many people were shocked, including the prosecution. One prosecuting attorney said that they had barely had time to elect a foreman in the jury, consider the evidence, and immediately everyone came to the conclusion. Sheriff Garrett said he did not intend to reopen the investigation ever again because he would be trying to convict an innocent person.
Oh, sheriff. Been paid a lot of money here.
No, so sheriff is No, I think you misunderstood.
Oh, the judge then, sorry.
No. Just the jury. Like, the jury decides in this case. So the 12 people. So basically what Sheriff Garrett is saying is that he will never reopen this case, because if he has to reopen this case, they will have to find the killer of Athalia, but it can't be Alan Stanford because he was...
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood that part.
Yeah, so he's saying that I'm never going to reopen it because we're going to be trying to convict an innocent person. That's how strongly he believes that Alan Stanford is the killer. That he's like saying, I'm never going to reopen it because if I reopen it, who are we chasing? An innocent man? That's so crazy.
Okay, sorry, Sheriff Garrett, misunderstood you.
Yeah, Alan Stanford gave an interview. He admitted that he couldn't stand Athalia. He said his recourse against Athalia's attacks would have been a lawsuit, not murder. He said the trial had devastated his family financially. Husband James Lindsay petitioned the court to overturn Athalia's will, in which she left everything to her sister. He was successful in receiving a third of her estate, though the $100,000 estate amounted to only $69,000 after the mortgage was paid off. James told the court he had changed his will upon marriage to leave half his estate to his son and half to Athalia. I don't know why this is relevant, but I guess it just explains that James Lindsay did get some money out of it. But it seems like that 69 G's that he got was nowhere near the risk to kind of like go through all of this craziness. You know?
Definitely.
Like, this is insane.
And I don't know, the manner in which Athalia has been murdered, it seemed like there was a lot of hate. I still couldn't forget the splatter of the blood on the walls. It's
or
like
the
pure
scene.
hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the scene.
And
I don't
James
think...
Lindsay, yeah. Would you think he's, after coming from a shopping date, he turns back and he hates her so much?
Mm-hmm. No. Not at all. Because it's like, sure, maybe there is a possibility that he did not like her, but I don't think he hates her that much to kill her in such a brutal manner. Or to kill her in general.
Yeah. A neighbor on that same street where Athalia was murdered, Frances Bemis, had been quoted after the murder saying that she felt safe in St. Augustine. And it was unfortunately really sad because she was also killed on November 3rd, 1974, another woman on that same street. She said that she was taking a walk every night and would keep doing so regardless of Athalia's murder because she felt safe. However, November 3rd, her body was found in a vacant lot with her skull crushed by a concrete block and her body partially burned. Police claim there is no connection between her murder and Athalia's murder. But some friends said that Frances, a former newspaper woman, was helping Nancy Powell on a book about that particular crime, about Athalia's murder. The Miami Herald reported that police found an outline of Frances' suggestions for the book in her home. And her murder has never been solved, just like Athalia's. That's kind of crazy.
This one's just crazy.
That literally right after this was during the investigation. So Frances was murdered before Alan was
Stanford.
before Alan Stanford was found not guilty. So he was arrested. I think he was maybe out on bail. So the idea here is that maybe Frances has extra information and Alan Stanford, during the time when he was bailed, I assume murdered her for the information. So, more information about Frances. She was a public relations specialist. She was specializing in department store promotions, a newspaper writer, radio producer, and a fashion director. Very, very interesting career. Like, it's amazing. She was also a World War II veteran. She was serving as a corporal at the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. She attended college at Oglethorpe University and the University of California. After graduating college, she returned to Georgia and wrote columns for both the Atlanta Constitution and Atlanta Journal. At the same time, she began her public relations career by handling publicity for the Women's Club of Atlanta. At the time of her death, she was allegedly gathering information in order to write a true crime book on the murder of her friend and neighbor Athalia. Frances herself was murdered during an evening walk a short distance from her house. In 1956, she was semi-retired. She engaged in charitable work for various causes, worked as a publicist for the city, and wrote several local newspapers. So yeah. Some more information that she was born in Atlanta. She'd been married and divorced 4 times. This is a lot of times. According to friends who said she used to, the name of her first husband is irrelevant. So yeah, Frances Bemis, a woman shortly after Athalia's murder, had been murdered. Police said there's no connection between the two cases, but do you think there could be a connection?
It's really hard to say because you don't really have. I would say there's no information about this case other than how she was killed.
That's true. I didn't find any more information, but at least from what I can see, I wouldn't be so quick to rule out a connection.
Definitely, because it's, as you mentioned, there's a chance that she was gathering information.
Yeah, and they did find stuff in her home. So
what if the culprit was just out to stop her from learning more?
Yeah. I don't know about you, but to me it seems like Alan Stanford is the most logical killer of Athalia.
Definitely. I would agree with you.
So would Alan Stanford on bail go and kill Frances because she's writing a true crime book? I don't think so. I don't think that makes sense for him, because if she has some really deep knowledge about the case, she would have already told it to police. So there's nothing new that she would have tell police. So there's no need to kill her. But then,
But come on, she was a threat.
I mean, only after the fact with some book, which is not that crazy. I think Alan Stanford at that point, he was thinking, can he beat the case? Does he need to go and kill Francis?
Probably not, because
Probably
chances
not.
are he will get caught and
Get caught. Unless we're talking about Alan Stanford, the crazy maniac who legit just kills everybody. Which I didn't get the fact. I think Alan Stanford was probably a man who was,
driven by hate.
no, not by hate, but by the pressure. Like Athalia was, pressuring him so hard, and he's losing his job.
Oh, come on.
And
There
he
was
just
obviously
and he
hate.
just lost. He just lost it one day. Especially feels to me that he lost it right after that visit by the two guys from from some authorities who visited him because of his lack of expertise in his job. So I think he lost control and he did it. I didn't feel like he's still out to kill people. But then,
Yeah.
But then again, who killed Francis? And in which way? Like her skull was crushed and she was partially burnt. How does that work? In a vacant lot, I believe. How does that work? Was
I
this
have
just a
no
random
idea.
killer? And if this is a random killer, then maybe Athalia could have been killed by the same random killer who is not Alan Stanford. Is this a possibility that both Athalia and Francis were killed by? I doubt it because
A random one, and then that random killer also planted evidence.
yeah, that's true. The fact that they legit found a murder bundle with Athalia's hair and DNA or blood, that explains that murder bundle definitely is connected to Athalia. So maybe it is a person.
I
who,
hope they
and
did
it has the watch and it has
basically everything. that
Alan
points
Stanford's
out-
watch. Yeah. Which was apparently stolen after
I think we need more evidence with the second one with Francis.
Francis, but just such a bizarre.
It's really bizarre.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine her literally declaring, "Oh, it's pretty safe here. I'm gonna keep on walking out every night." Bam.
Yeah. That's insane.
Insane.
Okay, so what do you think happened to Athalia?
I think it was Mr. Stanford. And I couldn't be convinced otherwise. I couldn't really explain or even think what could have happened to Francis and if it's kind of connected. But in terms of Athalia, definitely Mr. Stanford. Right at the very beginning, Locke.
Probably Locke. I'm stupid.
Okay, probably Locke, yeah. Maybe.
I bet it's Locke, yeah.
Okay, so that little teenager already saw a Mr. Stanford as he initially claimed it was. And I don't know, I was already convinced because if you see a neighbor all the time, it's like you would know it's them from the back.
Yeah.
Remember, you have a neighbor here that has you always see him. We always see him when walking. And you already know it's that same neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
Even from a distance.
You mean the guy who almost killed me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Okay, wait. Tell them the story. It's not as bad.
No, we have a crazy guy living in my apartment building who drives his old car at high speeds in the parking lot for no reason. He's just coming back from work or something, blasting Russian music.
I love him.
Yeah, it's a character for sure, but I get what you're saying. I'm not confusing that guy.
He wasn't out to get you. He was just doing his own thing. You were being slow.
Man.
Stalling him.
But I get your
Anyways.
point. I get your point.
There's no way you could just look at a stranger or like a neighbor and not recognize them.
Definitely.
Especially if you've been seeing them a lot of times. And the manner in which Athalia was killed, it was a lot of hate, and it feels like Stanford would have, would do it, because Athalia at one point was terrorizing.
Usually now that we're like researching cases, I'm less likely to have a strong verdict on something, but on this one I just have a strong verdict. I feel like Alan Stanford is the killer. I do think that what's interesting to me, Alan Stanford I believe is dead by now. I tried to find Patricia Stanford because I was interested. Patricia Stanford would be the daughter of Alan Stanford. She, I think, changed her story according to the information I found online. I wanted to see what she does. I wanted to see what a person who falsely provided information of to get a murderer out. I wanted to find her LinkedIn
It was
or
her
something.
father.
But I wanted to see what a murderer, or like someone who's almost as bad as a murderer, like letting a murderer walk freely, you're basically just as bad as a murderer.
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't put it against her because she was young. And she might have been pressured by both of her parents.
Yeah, but I want to see what she is doing. But at this point, I was thinking she's probably retired. Yeah, she probably would be retired, and I couldn't find her on LinkedIn or on Facebook or anything. Patricia.
Oh, come on,
Stanford.
LinkedIn, really?
I was trying. I mean, I wanted to see what she's doing, so I could shoot her a message. I would be like, I wanted to ask, like, why?
Do you feel bad about your decisions when you were like 15? Now that you're like, I don't know, 74 or something?
I wanted to find her. I want to call her, like, yo, like, what are you doing?
No.
Are you happy?
Of course not. I bet guilt was probably, or at least ate her alive at one point, but
maybe she really doesn't. Do you think there's a chance that she really thinks her father's innocent? Because picture yourself after everything.
How young was I? Was I 14? Was I 16? Was I 18?
Regardless, as an adult, you review the case, and what do you think about it? It's crazy.
It's crazy, and I would have intense guilt, but
It's family.
It's family, and at the same time, I was young.
Yeah.
I was pressured.
Regardless, there's no information about the Stanfords. It's like they never existed.
I mean, that's a very common last name as well.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap up, really quickly, want to quickly talk about the latest on the Lily and Jack Sullivan's case, the missing kids from Nova Scotia. We talked about Lily's and Jack Sullivan case a couple of podcast episodes ago. Unfortunately, still no news on that really sad story. The two children are still missing. The latest development in the case, remember last week we had an update that apparently the timeline was shortened of when the children were actually last seen.
Yeah, because they were seen in public with their parents.
I think it wasn't with the parents. I think it was named like with one of the parents or something like that, like only one of them, something like that, as far as I can remember. We do have a new update on this case. Nova Scotia Royal Canadian Police announced on Wednesday that the investigators have conducted polygraph interviews as part of the effort to determine what happened to Lily and Jack Sullivan's siblings who vanished from their home on Lawson Station on May 2nd. Police stated in the new release that they have interviewed 54 people, which has included the administration of polygraph to some of the individuals interviewed. I wonder whom. Forensic polygraph examinations are an investigative tool, blah, blah, blah. The context, blah, blah, blah. We already know the context. So there was polygraphs, and I do see another interesting article that 21 hours ago, actually, stepfather, the interesting stepfather, he basically shares details of polygraph test. The stepfather of two missing children says he took a polygraph. So he did take a polygraph, which is interesting. Daniel Martel is the name of the stepfather. He says, I know it would be a big help in the case and kind of narrow down maybe some of the speculations and just provide more evidence. There's multiple facets to those investigations, and those experts are... Oh, this is someone else. So basically, well, I'm just trying to read what he's saying. Chris Lewis, CTV's policing expert and former polygraph examiner, says it's significant that police has administered polygraph tests. He said, you don't do polygraph tests and waste the resources on people that maybe just saw something or heard something or is a real remote suspect. That's not the way it works. If they are doing polygraph tests and examinations on people, those are people they suspect might be involved in some way or for whatever reason aren't being honest. So basically he's saying that, they're looking at the mother and the stepfather as suspects, not as, someone who just could give them some additional information. At this point, there has been no major breaks in the case. Stepfather Daniel Martel says the silence inside his once busy home is deafening. Going from a family of 7 to just me, I have nothing but time to just think. I haven't even got to see my own kids, not even Meadow yet, but I'm still hopeful. I have supervised visits coming up with the CPS. It's kind of mind-boggling that there's not been any evidence at all. I appreciate every tip, but it kind of leaves a lot of room to the imagination of what really happened. I just want everybody to focus outward, to focus on the kids. The kids are the main priority, and that will never change. Okay, what do you make of it? The stepfather was, he accepted to do a polygraph. He could have just, denied it.
Well, that's good then.
I feel like this guy, I could be wrong here, but this guy, Daniel Martel, he's really out here talking a lot. Mm-hmm. He's not hiding. Like, the mother is clearly looks like the mother is not doing nothing. Like, I'm not hearing nothing from the
maybe
mother.
maybe she's protecting her peace. I'll give her a benefit of the doubt.
You know what I read? Someone commented something really interesting. Mm-hmm. One of our commenters, I forgot who, but they commented that this could be happening, that maybe the mother ditched contact with Daniel Martel because the mother is hoping to get a plea deal.
What's a plea deal?
Like, basically, she's gonna expose everything for a lighter sentence.
Ooh.
So that's why they're not communicating, because maybe and this Daniel Martel, he's just going at his own way right now, just talking.
He just seems more genuine now.
He seems genuine, but it could be that he's... I don't know what to make of it. This is such a bizarre case. What really could have happened to these kids? It's so bizarre. And the interesting fact about this case for me is that, the stepfather and the mother, they're not talking to each other right now. So what's happening there? It's so weird. It's like, is he really innocent? Did the kids really just walk out? Everything about this case just screams that this is huge foul play. That's how it screams to me. But I don't know. I'm very interested I'm hopeful for some good news. But yeah, we're gonna keep checking this case out, guys. And on that note, I would say it's a good time to call it a day. Good podcast, I would say. Thank you for joining me, Rain, on the podcast. Thank you for listeners listening to us.
And thank you for all the comments and suggestions and all of the support. We really appreciate it. And as always, let us know what you think about the case and about
Lily and Jack Sullivan. Yeah.
I was supposed to say siblings. Yeah, siblings. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us what you guys think. We will catch you on the next one. Thank you and take care.
Thank you. Bye.